Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Sanhedrin Daf Pei Gimel, and we are starting about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the way down on Pei Beis and Mid Beis at the two dots. Kohen sheshimesh betuma. If a Kohen is mishamesh in the Beis Hamikdash betuma, what is the din? Ba minei Rav Acha bar Huna Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes is going to be the man of the hour, the man of the first 20 minutes, I should say. We have to figure out really if he's correct. Let's see what the question that was asked of Rav Sheshes and the answer that Rav Sheshes gave. Here was the question. Kohen sheshimish betuma chayv misa bidei shamayim o chayv misa o ein chayv misa bidei shamayim. Do we say that there is a status of chiyuv misa bidei shamayim, yes or no, in regards to a kohen sheshimesh betuma? Amar lei, here's Rav Sheshes's shita. Tanituha, we learned this. This is our Mishnah. Kohen sheshimesh betuma, einacha ba kohanim mevi'en osa lebezdin, alapirchei kuna motzi'en osa chutz lazar, upotzin es mocho begizrin. We learned this yesterday. It's not gishmak. That if a kohen is mishamesh betuma, so the halacha is that the young kohanim, they literally beat him up with a baseball bat until he dies. Now, what's the svara of Rav Sheshes from here? The isal kadaitach mechai b'dei shamayim. If it was really the case that he was chai b'dei shamayim for being mishamesh betuma, l'shavke, leave him alone. Deliktal b'dei shamayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will arrange for him to die. Why are the Pirchei Kuna getting involved bichlal? Elamai, says Rav Sheshes, it must be that a kohen that's mishamesh betuma is not chai b'dei shamayim. So says the Gemara in the Rav Sheshes. Ooh.
Oh, they're katanim?
They're not katanim. They're 13 to 20. They're
so
done.
They're going to have a problem. Because if he's not chayav misa, I mean, this goes back to the one where we say if 10 people kicked in and none of them are.
I mean, they're younger than the own shin, but it's still.
Well, that doesn't make it mutter. That doesn't make it mutter.
Oh, but they're still a lot of mitzvah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually wondering if the din of Kana and Pogimbo applies.
Wonder if it's in the same Mishnah.
It isn't right, exactly. It's the next din. But Rashi and the Mishnah has got to answer this question. Let's see if he talks about it. I don't think he does Pogin.
Nobody is an evil with that. And there's a certain amount that they.
No one's in either way. How much? That what?
Don't they have to know all the halachas backwards and forwards before they can be a kanai?
Kanai? You just have to know this halacha. You don't have to know every halacha. You have to know that it's mutter to be a kanai. You have to know that you are a kanai and that it's mutter to kill under the circumstances. So we're actually going to see Rav Sheshes is wrong. He's really chayv misa. So in the Havamina, it's a good question. But let's continue. Rav Sheshes gave us his answer. So it says the Gemara, Elamai eino chayiv. You want to say, Rav Sheshes, that he's not chayiv? Mi ikamidi derachmana patre va'ana nekum v'nektole? This is really your question that you're asking. Hold on one second. He's not chai b'dei shamayim, but the Pirchei Kuna are going to beat him up and kill him and crack his head open with a piece of wood. It's like Louisville Sluggers. They're just gonna. My brother did that to me. Hit me in the face with a baseball bat. Anyways, says the Gemara below, we do have precedents for that. We do have precedents for killing someone, even though they were not chai b'dei shamayim. But it's not. Mishalaka v'shana. Come in the wrong place. Come is kill. Mishalaka v'shana bezdin machnisin oso l'kipa. And what did we say over there? Rachmana patre v'anan katlinan lei. So there, by machnisin l'kipa, isn't it the case that HaKadosh Baruch Hu patered this person, but the Rabbanon say that it's time to kill this person? Says the Gemara, wait. No, because we learned this sugya already. We should be familiar with this answer already. No. The case of that Mishnah was the case of Gaba Bar Ketala because he was chayv krisus. What? It's not Shaveh B'Shaveh. The kippah is, I think the language of the Mishnah was it ma'achilin? Was it ma'achilin that they actually feed him?
Right, so I don't know if ma'achilin means shoving.
Right. Yeah, it's ma'achilin.
Yeah, I don't know if that means shoving it down the throat, or if you leave somebody in a lacking place and give them only barley, they will eat it because there's nothing else.
We discussed this in regards to how we defined hereg, right? If you tie someone up and then they die for other purposes, right? If I hold you underwater, the water that killed you, right? Afalpi that I made it.
And this is even less, because water is just.
Yeah.
A bit more fast.
A bit more. Next question, that was our Mishnah also, that if a person steals the kalim from the Beis HaMikdash, so there as well the Chachamim say you're pater. There the Torah says you're pater, but the Chachamim say that you should die. That was an example in our Gemara of Kanaim Pogambo. It says the Gemara, no, Amar Ha'amar of Yehuda b'chli sharis askin, and we had said that the case of a kisva was where a person stole the klei shares. Where Miza, the pasuk says lo yavo deros kebalas hakodesh v'meisvu. There, the pasuk does kind of say there's a shtickle chiyuv misa by the klei shares. So there, you can't bring a raya from there that you're not chayiv misa, but we still kill him. No, there you are chayiv misa. We spoke about in our Mishnah on Pei Aleph Amud Beis about Makalas HaKosim, that person's also put to death. Perhaps that is the case where he's pater bidei shamayim and chai bidei bezdin. Says the Gemara, no. Tani Rabbi Yosef Yaka Kosim es Kosmo Demechsekim Baruch Hashem. We had said that the guy says, I want my idol to curse Hashem. He's the one who created me. So what does that sound like? That sounds like blasphemy of the highest caliber. And that sounds like Birkas Hashem, which is Chai Misa. We spoke in our Mishnah about Bo'al HaRamis that was also Kanai Pogembo. Says the Gemara, Ha'akaru Rav Kana B'chal, maybe it created Rav L'Gemara. There we had already said that Rav was reminded by the dream that Rav Kahana had, the psukim that were read to Rav Kahana while he was dreaming. So there the Gemara says that Rav remembered, and as we said over there, the pasuk said Yachres. That's the Gemara that we learned yesterday on Pei Beis Amud Aleph. And the Gemara says, 10, 12 lines into the Gemara, so that is a chiyuv misa. So then we have no precedence anymore. So that means that Rav Sheshes is of the opinion that there's no chiyuv misa. So we're trying to find out if he's right. So the Gemara says, we need to ask a kasha on Rav Sheshes again. Rav Sheshes held that the case that we were dealing with, which is kohen sheshimish betuma, Rav Sheshes was of the opinion that they're not chayiv misa. He must not be chayiv misa, because if he was chayiv misa, we wouldn't have had the pirchei kahuna kill him. Hashem would have killed him. So it says the Gemara Esvei, 2 lines from the bottom of Pei Beis Amud Beis. Hayotzek, a person pours oil. V'habolel, a person mixes flour. V'hapose, someone who crumbles the matzah on the mizbech. Hamoleach, someone who salts. Hameniv, someone who moves around doing hanafa, tnufa. Hamagid, someone who presents something. V'hamasader, sashulchan, someone who sets the table. Hameti v'saner, someone who prepares the menorah. V'hakometz, a person who does kmitza. V'hamakabam damim, a person who accepts the blood in the Beis HaMikdash. V'chutz pater, if he does this outside of the Beis HaMikdash, he's pater. Rashi, pater. Only the last act is going to be considered. An act of kohen sheshimesh betuma. So it's the scope of where does kohen sheshimesh betuma apply. It doesn't apply with all the preparatory acts. It applies to the what's called the ma'isa tama, the completing act. So it says the Gemara back inside that you're going to be pater. And if you do these preparatory actions, top of Pei Gimel Aleph, you're not going to be chayav lo mishum zarus if you're a zar who did that, lo mishum tuma, lo mishum l'chusar begadim. Even if you're not wearing the right number of begadim, we won't hold you accountable if you're wearing 3 out of the 4 or 7 out of the 8 if you're the kohen gadol. Lo mishum rachutz yadayim reglaim. If you forget to wash your hands in these ma'asas, you're also not going to be chayav in those cases. So what's the diuk from the brayso? Ha-mekater chayav. But it sounds like if you do the Ketores, which is similar to the Shechita, namely, it's the Ma'isa Tama, it's the last action that you do, then the Chori should be Chayiv. My lav that you're Chayiv Misa, and therefore Rav Sheshes wanted to say the Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma is not Chayiv Misa, but this Brisa leaves us enough room to be Medayik that the Mekater, the person who brings the Ketores, is Chayiv and potentially Misa. So Kasha and Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes might bring, says Gemara, lo, be'azhara. The Gemara says that when we say that a person is chayiv on mekater, that's not a chiyuv misa. That is a lav. That is the iser deoraisa of kohen sheshimesh mitaso. So therefore, the way that we would understand Rav Sheshes over here is that the person did a lav, the kohen sheshimesh betuma did a lav, and he's not chayiv misa, and the pirchei kuna still kill him. Okay. Says the Gemara, Elazar Nami, if a zar does the ktores la azhara, oh, that's for sure not true because v'aksiv ve'azar hakarev you must. So now we have a big problem. If a zar, I'm a Yisrael. So if I go into the Beis Hamikdash and I am maktir the ktores, the pasuk says ve'azar hakarev you must, and you want to tell me that a kohen who does the same act betuma is only a lav? So the Yisrael who does the Maseches chayiv misa, and the Kohen who does it betuma is a lav? That sounds backwards. So says the Gemara, yes, that's exactly what it means. Ha-kedei-isa v'ha-kedei-isa. Why do they have to be connected? The Yisrael who does what he did wrong, you're not in the right place, you did the wrong Maisa, you should not be maktir the Torah, you shouldn't be doing shchita in the Beis HaMikdash, you're chayiv misa, goodbye, you're done. But a Kohen who does it, you're supposed to be there. So okay, so you did something wrong, so you're going to be chayiv malchus, whatever you're going to be chayiv. Michlal, but there's a problem. If we say what we just said, then Michlal, that implies that for a Kohen, if the Maisa Tama, the Shchita or the Haktorah, the Kohen is only Chayav Alav, what about the preparatory Maisas from the beginning of the Brisa, 2 lines from the bottom of Pei Beis and Beis? Michlal, the Yotzei Kubolel, all of those preparatory things, Lav Namilo. Let's remember what we're talking about. There are 2 types of actions. There's preparatory actions and final actions. Maisa Hachana and Maisa Tama. If we're saying by the Kohen that the Shchita or the Haktorah is only a lav, then perhaps the preparatory actions are not chayiv at all. Latanya, how could you say that? Azhara liyotze kubol el minayin. Don't tell me that that's the case. If the Kohen who is meshamesh betuma when he does the Torah is only a lav, and that's a Maisa Tama, that's a completing act. All the preparatory things you wanted to say are pater. The Brisa says black on white. Says the Rabban, the Gemara, don't worry. That pasuk of kedoshim yihyu and v'lo yechalalu midrabanan v'kra asmachta be'alma. Let's review. What this means is that we have 3 levels. We have a machlokes, not a machlokes. We have a difference between a Kohen and a Zar who brings the Ktores. The Zar is chayiv misa. The Kohen is an Isser Lav for doing so betuma. If the Maisa Tama, the act of bringing the Ktores, or the Korban, if you do the Shchita as a Kohen, that's only a Lav, that's the Maisa Tama. All the preparatory things are only, quote unquote, only an Isser Derabanan. That's unbelievable. If you walk into the Beis Hamikdash as a Kohen in your tummy, and you pour the wine, you mix it up, you crumble up the matzahs, all of these maisas, if you do them as a Kohen Hamatame, Kohen Sheshimish Betuma, it's an Isser D'Rabbanan. I don't know, it strikes me as a wild thing. I can't imagine. But that's what the Gemara says. So, good. Says the Gemara, Meisvei, only by the Maisa Tama, only by the final. So let's say, by Shchita, it's the actual Shchita, if it's Korban. All the preparatory acts to the animal are midrabanan. So it's shocking, right?
But also, it really takes a turn quickly.
It takes a turn quickly. That's a very good point, actually. That's a very good point. There's no regular lav. Someone's got to ask that question.
Right? Isn't there just... Okay. Interesting.
So someone has to ask that question. Okay, good. Beautiful question, David. So it says the Gemara, yeah, it's all only D'Rabbanan. All the preparatory things are D'Rabbanan. So again, it seems like right now Rav Sheshes can still have his cake and eat it too. You did the Maisa, you're Kohen Sheshimish Betuma. You're not Chayiv Misa, but we're going to kill you anyway. You're not Chayiv Misa B'dei Shamayim, but the kids are ready to swing at you. Meisvei, ve'elu hein shebemisa, Tamei Sheshimesh. So it says the Gemara, Rav Sheshes, I'm sorry, you're done. Rav Sheshes, you wanted to say that the Kohen Sheshimish Betuma is not Chayiv Misa. You're absolutely wrong. And Lamaisa, he is Chayiv Tiyufta. End of Sugya. So he's wrong. We reject Rav Sheshes. Halacha Lamaisa. Not like we've been saying. The Havamin is like we were saying. Rav Sheshes would have said, although he was proven wrong, Rav Sheshes would have said all the preparatory Maisa all the divrei hachana are considered d'Rabbanan, the cross machta be'alma, and the ma'isa tama, either the hakrava of the animal or the haktara of the spices. That's a ma'isa tama. A final act would have been an isser lab, no chiyuv misa. Says the Gemara, brisa against Rav Sheshes. Conversation short. Gufa. Now we're going to learn that brisa that we just used to prove that Rav Sheshes is wrong. We're going to learn the whole brisa and pick it apart. And this will take us to the end of the day. Gufa. Ve'elu shebemisa. Here's the full list as quoted in the Tosefta in Krisos, and it's also a Tosefta in Zvachim. Ve'elu shebemisa. Ha'ochel asat tevel. You're chayiv misa if you eat tevel. The kohen tameh she'achal truma tahora. If a kohen is tameh and eats truma tahora, he's chayiv misa. Zar she'ochel asat truma. V'zar eats truma, that is l'chora, that's tahora. V'zar she'shimesh, that's if a regular Jew, a non-kohen, does the service. The tameh sheshimesh, a kohen tameh. That's our marimakum that we used to disprove Rav Sheshes a couple of moments ago. Utvul yom sheshimesh, a tvul yom. Let's say someone saw carry their tameh, and they went to the mikvah, but they have to wait for ha'er of shemesh. That's a tvul yom. Umechusar begadim, a kohen is not wearing enough of the garments of their respective roles of kohen, either a kohen hedjot who has 4 or a kohen gadol who has 8. Umechusar kapara, which is Zav, Zava, Yoledas, and Mitzora. These people, they're pure in most ways, they just haven't brought their korban yet. They're Mechusar Kapara. And they're Chayiv Misa if they do the wrong thing. It says the Gemara, V'shelo Rachatz Yodayim V'raglaim. If the Kohanim don't wash their hands properly, they would be Chayiv Misa. Ushsuye Yayin, people who come into the Beis HaMikdash drunk. This is a good musar on Erev Purim. If you show up on Shul on Friday night, you've done something very wrong. You can't daven like a shikor. It's a din in Shulchan Aruch. There's nothing to debate. There's no two ways about it. Drink early, get it over with, black coffee, water, show up in Shul. There's no heter to be drunk in Shul. Upruei Rosh, if the Kohen were to have done the avoda with his hair uncovered. Aval, and this was very surprising to me. Orel, the onain, the yoshev. If a person does the avoda as an orel, or if they're an onain is an interesting thing to put in here. That's a mitzias of being metapel b'meis. You're osik b'mitzvah pater mina mitzvah. So you have no mitzvah saseh. You do that, or v'yoshev, you do the avoda sitting. Einan b'misa ela be'azhara. That's allowed. That's an isser d'oraisa.
How would they allow a coin to serve? That may whatever. I guess it would happen by mistake. I don't know. But
If what?
We get them out.
Oh, so it could be that he never had a bris, or maybe his bris wasn't kosher,
Probably that he has brothers.
or he had brothers who died. There are cases. It's possible, but you can't walk into the Makam on Mikdash with orla. You would think. Yeah, there are cases. This is a big tumult in the Rishonim by Hatafas Tam bris in general. I just did this. A 13-year-old boy. Yeah, the mother called me and said, the rabbis say my son is a yid, I have the paperwork. She said, I feel a suffix. I want my son to do a gerus misafik. His bris wasn't kosher in Manavshah. So the maisa that I did was atafas tam bris, but b'shtei kavanos. If you're a yid, then this is just being mitake in the bris. If you're a goy, this is l'shem gerus. And I have 3 dayanim standing over me. Not our dayanim, just three yid. It's actually a big shaila if you can have a dayan hedjot by gerus. It's really not a good idea. They were actually Talmidei Chacham, and one of them runs a kollel in Yerushalayim. It was a dayan, so I felt a little better. But anyways, the reason we don't make a bracha is because there's diunim in the Rishonim. Do we say that because you have no foreskin, so okay, but you're just not shaykh to the mitzvah anymore? There's no orla. The mitzvah is hasaras ha'orla. Or do we say no? We need the ma'isa. So we never make a bracha about tafas tam bris. We didn't make a bracha here either. So perhaps, I'm not saying that this is the case, but I could see why an orel could be someone who is gemalt, but not kosher. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I could theorize a possibility as to how that's true. What about a Baal Mum? What about a Kohen who has a Baal Mum? He has a blemish of some kind that really makes him an invalid Kohen. He still does the avodah. This is a machlokes tanoim. Rabbi Omer b'misa b'chachamim omer b'azhara, almost halfway down. What about Hazid b'me'ilah? Let's say a Kohen intentionally misappropriated funds that belong to Hektish. Rabbi Omer b'misa b'chachamim omer b'azhara. Now we're going to go through all the things that are in the Mishnah, all the things that are chiyuvei misa. Remember, we just said 10 lines down, ve'elu shebemisa, and we said 10 things. I don't know how many we said. Now we're going to go through all of them. Ha'ochel esatev el minayin that you're chayiv misa, minalan that you're chayiv misa, Amar Shmuel Amar Rebbe Lazar, Mishum Rebbe Lazar, Minayin la'ochel es hatevel shebemisa dechsiv v'lo yichalalu es kodshe b'nei Yisrael sheyarimu la'Hashem. And the word yarimu is a future word. Be'asidim litra makasim medaber. That which you are going to bring in the future, you are going to be chayiv on. And if you look at the whole pasuk, the pasuk says, oh, actually, there is no pasuk. So there, the pasuk says that you should not do that, and you are chayiv misa for doing so. How do we know you're chayiv misa for doing so? V'yalev chilul mitruma. We learn the world of tevel from the world of truma. Malahalan, when you're being torem and yarimu, right? Same words, truma and yarimu. The yarimu by us, we also have a chilul. So the Gemara says that we learn alahalan b'misa by truma. We say that there is misa if you're mechalel. Afkan, even over here by tevel b'misa. Says the Gemara, why did you choose to learn chilul in this way? B'neilav chilul minosar. The word nosar also has the word chilul. Malahalan b'kares, afkan b'kares. Mechatesi that you're chayiv misa. Maybe we should say you're chayiv kares because I could learn tevel from the world of nosar. Says the Gemara, mistabar mitruma havalei lemelav. It makes more sense that we should learn tevel, which deals with truma, from truma that deals with truma, and not from nosar that's not dealing with truma. Shekain, truma, they're both truma, right? It's easier to learn the world of tevel from the world of general truma. Also, chutz la'aretz, we know that nosar did have an application outside of the Makam HaMikdash whenever there was a Mishkan, whenever there was a Bamad Beheter. So there we had a din of nosar by those korbanos. Masha'in kain, truma only applies in Eretz Yisrael. In Jewel, a couple of years ago, they had a sign up. Do you remember this? Not this Shemitah cycle, the one before, that these are imported from Eretz Yisrael. You have to make sure or whatever that you, the red peppers. It was red peppers. It's unbelievable. They shipped them all the way from Israel. How did they do that? I don't even understand that. What about Mexico? What about all the other places that sell? It's half of a fella. I know. I don't. And if you're made, I don't understand. Keep your gashmias out of our shiur. So chutz la'aretz was also a distinction. That's another reason to learn tevel from truma because those only apply in Eretz Yisrael and nosar apply in chutz la'aretz. And hutra by tevel and by truma, you could fix the problem. Just be torem, problem solved. Masha'en came with nosar. Once something becomes nosar, it's a done deal. And birabim, the psukim both by tevel and by truma were plural. Masha'en came nosar when the language of chilul there was singular, v'lo yechalel. But the other psukim were either v'lo yechalalu or v'lo yechalaluhu. And also peiros. Truma and tevel were both peiros. What was nosar? Basar. Not the same food groups. And pigul v'nosar only applied by nosar, but it doesn't apply by truma and tevel. So the Gemara gives multiple rationales as to why it is that we should assume that the chiyuv misa of tevel is learned from the world of truma based on chilul instead of learning from nosar. Because the comparison of tevel and truma is much stronger than the comparison of tevel to nosar. I asks the Gemara Adirabba, perhaps we taka should learn tevel's chiyuv misa from the world of nosar. Why? Minosar habalei lemelav shekain pasul ochel, psul ochel. Because what foods are usher? Tevel as a psul achila, so is a nosar, and also ein lo heter b'mikvah. And also, there is no heter in the mikvah for tevel and for nosar. Says the Gemara, nice svara, but hanach nefishin. We have more examples of why we should learn tevel from truma than from nosar. And the Gemara therefore concludes, at least according to this first answer, that tevel is the chiyuv misa of achilas tevel is learned from truma, which is also chay misa based on the word chilul. Ravina gives a bit of a different answer. Amar chilul derabim mechilul derabim adif. He gives a particular answer that the chilul derabim is a little bit of a stronger answer, plural, and that's why he was happier with it. Not just the numbers, but the answer is better. All of that answers only one question so far, and we're 7 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots, which is how do we know that tevel is a chiyuv misa, and tevel is learned from truma. The kohen tameh she'achal truma tahor minal. How do we know that if a kohen who is tameh eats truma that is tahor, how do we know that he's chayiv misa? Damar Shmuel minayin lekohen tameh she'achal truma tahora shubemisa b'dei shamayim d'chsiv v'shamaras mishmar tivlo yisu alav chet tahora in Tameya, lo. So that's only true if the food is tahora. But if a Kohen were to eat truma tmeya, he's not chayv misa because that food isn't eligible for truma. It's truma tmeya. So therefore, it's only for that one thing. The Amar Shmuel Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Minayin lekohen tamei shachal truma tmeya she'eno b'misa. If he ate truma tmeya, how do we know that there's no iser there? Shneimar, bottom line of Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, as we turn to the top of Pei Gimel Amud Beis, umesu bo hi'echaluhu. He will die if he profanes it. Prat lezu shemechulelas ve'omedes, except for that which is already mechulal. What's already made bad? Pashat, that's truma, which is tmeya. So that's how the Gemara makes a distinction between a kohen who is tamei, who eats truma tahora, chiyuv misa, versus the other side where you have truma tmeya and a kohen tamei who eats it. That's not a chiyuv misa. Gemara doesn't say what the isser is. I'm curious what the isser is, but that's not what the Gemara says. Next, the zar she'achal es truma, top two lines of Pei Gimel Amud Beis. Let's say that I'm a Yisrael and I eat truma. So it says the Gemara, there's a din of chiyuv misa. This is a machlokes. Amar Rav, zar she'achal es truma loke. Hold on 1 second. We just quoted a brisa, and this is Rav. Amar le Rav Kahana v'Rav Asi l'Rav lema mar b'misa dechsi v'chol zar lo yochal kodesh. Says the Gemara, maybe we should say that it's b'misa because one pasuk says v'chol zar lo yochal kodesh. Says the Gemara, that's true, but ani Hashem mekadasham hifsika inyan. So now I'm going to read both psukim to explain what's going on over here because the Gemara says that the words ani Hashem mekadasham separates the two ideas. Here is pasuk number 1, Vayikra Chav Beis pasuk Tes. Vishamru es mishmarti v'lo yisu alav chet umesuvo ki yechalaluhu. The pasuk says that if a person doesn't keep the shmira, if a kohen who's tamei eats the truma that is tahora, he's chayv misa. Next 3 words in the pasuk, ani Hashem mekadsham. Next pasuk Yud, v'chol zar lo yochal kodesh toshav kohen v'sacher lo yochal kodesh. Doesn't say misa. Maybe we would have extended the iser misa from Vishamru to the next pasuk of Zar. Says the Gemara, no, the words Ani Hashem Mekadsham separates and doesn't transfer the Isser Misa from the world of a Kohen Tameh who eats Truma Tahora to the world of Zar. Asks the Gemara, Meisvei, Ve'elu Hein Sheba Misa, Zar Ha'ochel Es HaTruma. I don't understand your Shita Rav. How can you say there's only Malchus? The brisa that we learned on the top of Pei Gimel Amud Beis, in the middle of Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, that Gemara says black on white. It says that if you are chayv misa if you are a zar and eat truma. How can you say, Rav, that there's malchus? So the Gemara answers, as it regularly does, only for Rav. Masnisa adirav karamis. You're bringing a brisa against Rav. Rav Tanahu Upalik. Rav has the status of a Tana, and he's able to argue on a brisa, and Rav argues on a brisa. He holds that a zar is only going to be chayav on the lav. He has an iser lav, but there is no, by any stretch, there is no chiyuv misa, machlokes tanoim, Rav against the brisa. The next piece of Gemara, 7-8 lines down, Pei Gimel Amud Beis says, V'zar sheshimesh, let's say you have a non-Kohen who does the avoda, right? The previous case was talking about ochel es truma. Now we're talking about our 4th case in the brisa of a zar who does the avoda. Says the Gemara, zar v'zar dechsi sheshimesh dechsi v'azar hakarev yumas. Simple sugya, clean. This is easy. The pasuk is obvious. The tamei sheshimesh, you have a kohen who's tamei sheshimesh. Let's remember where we started today. This piece of Gemara is what proved that Rav Sheshes was wrong, because Rav Sheshes' havamin on the Gemara on the bottom of Pei Beis and Beis was that a kohen sheshimesh betuma is not chayiv misa. So this Gemara rejects that. 8 lines down at the 2 dots. How do we know that if a kohen whose tamei does the avoda is chayiv misa? Techsiv daber al Aaron ve'elbonav v'yinazru mikodesh bnei Yisrael v'lo yichalalu Hashem kodeshi v'yalev chilul mitruma ma'lahalan b'misa af kan b'misa. We learn chilul from the world of truma, just like in the world of truma there's a chiyuv misa. So too over here by kohen sheshimesh tamei, he's also chayiv misa. And the Gemara over here asks a very similar question that we asked on the previous Amud, though in a slightly different context. V'neiluv chilul minosar. Why don't we learn this chilul from nosar? Ma'alahalan kares av kan kares. Perhaps we should say that truma, that kohen sheshimesh betuma is going to be a chiyuv kares, and we should learn not from the world of truma, but we should learn from the world of nosar. Says the Gemara, mistabra mitruma dehavale lemelav shekain guf tamei mikva berabim. Because of these four features. Let's take a look at Rashi to articulate what these four features have going for us. Almost halfway down, Pei Gimel Amud Beis Rashi, Dibra Maskal Guf Tamei Mikva Berabim, Tamei Sheshimesh v'Tamei She'achal Truma, Shnehem Psulei HaGuf. That's what the word Guf means. V'Shnehem Psulei Tuma. That's what Tamei means. V'Yesh Lahem Heter b'mikvah, and you could be matayr. V'chilula lashon rabim. That's what all these four words mean. But rabim is the plural language. So again, we have a reason to learn from the world of truma back to the world of kohen sheshimesh betuma. Therefore, our marimakom to teach us that kohen sheshimesh betuma is chayv misa is from the words chilul, one of those words by truma, and one of those words by kohen sheshimesh betuma. Says the Gemara Ad Rabbah, I can show you why it's kedai to learn kohen sheshimesh betuma from nosar. Says the Gemara, Minosar havalei lamelav shekain kodesh, pnim, pigul, and nosar. So it says Rashi dibra maschal shekain kodesh, 2/3 of the way down in the Rashi is tamei sheshimesh v'asak bekachim, uven nosar kodesh v'shneim bifnim. Those are done inside the Beis Hamikdash. Mashein kin b'truma. And then the other things we already know about. Rabim is also plural language. Mechilul dera'u. Shekin Kodesh Pnim Pigul V'Nosar. These are also things that show similarities between Kohen, Sheshimesh, Betuma, and Nosar. So maybe we should learn from Betuma. Says Gemara, Nechilul Derabim, Nechil Derabim Adev. It's better to learn from the world of Truma because those both have plural languages of V'lo Yechalalu and V'lo Yechalaluhu. Masha'en Kin B'Nosar is that it only says V'lo Yechalal. That's what the pasuk says. Tvul Yom Sheshimesh. How do we know that if a person has gone to the mikvah, let's talk about carry. A person is a Baal carry, and he waits the requisite time. He jumps in the mikvah in the morning, but until Erev Shemesh, until the sun goes down, he forgot it was daylight savings. He scheduled his achila to do whatever he did betuma. He didn't realize at 6 o'clock the sun was still going to be up. So he eats the food that's asri schayv misa for that. You have to wait till Erev Shemesh. Minolan, how would we know this? The time Reb Simai Omer, last of the short lines, first of the long lines. Remez l'tvul yom she'im avad chilel minayin. How do we know that if a person was a tvul yom, so you have a kohen who's a Baal Keri and went to the mikvah, but it wasn't Erev Shemesh that he did the avoda, he's chayiv. So it says the Gemara. By the way, this is a little shver because here the Gemara says it's a remez. It doesn't say that it's actually chayiv misa. Maybe it's that's hard. Anyways, the Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, first long line, we know that this phrase doesn't apply to the Kohen who was Matame, who was Mishimesh, because that we learned earlier, the Nafgalan Mivi Yanazru, that we learned a little bit higher up on the page. So therefore, Taneyu Inyan L'Tvul Yom Sheshimesh, therefore we extend the din of Misa from the world of Kohen Sheshimesh Betuma to the world of Tvul Yom, because we don't need that pasuk. That pasuk already taught us the din and the imenu inyan for teaching us what it says in the pasuk. So then we're going to extend it to a new area, which is Tvul Yom. Why don't we learn a gzeira shava from the world of Tvul Yom to the world of Truma? Malahalan b'misa, afkan b'misa. So the Gemara says that that's a possibility as well. The Gemara says, "Mechusar begadim minalan." How do we know that a Kohen who's lacking even one garment is going to be chayiv misa for doing the avodah? Again, a Kohen Hedjo missing one of his 4, the Kohen Gadol missing one of his 8. Amar Rabbi Abo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, 4 lines into the wide lines, Umatu ba mishmei, the Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. Some say it was Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. V'chagarto sam avneit. You should wear your avneit, your belt. Bizman shebegadim aleim, kihunasam aleim. When you're wearing your garments, you're a Kohen. Ein bigdeim aleim, ein kunasam aleim. V'havu lehu zarim. Unbelievable lamdus. Unbelievable. When a Kohen is not wearing his begadim, he's a zar. It's not that the chisaron and the begadim is the psul. The chisaron and the begadim alone is not enough. It makes you a non-Kohen. If you walk into the Makam HaMikdash without all of your begadim, you're not chayiv because you're missing a garment. You're chayiv because you're a zar. That's unbelievable. V'amar mar, zar sheshimesh b'misa. It's not normal. I just thought the psul would be the begadim. You're a chisar in the begadim. No, you're a zar without your big day kahuna. The clothes make the man. I think that's
It's easy tap.
the most apropos line I can think of. Usually we say that in a tongue-in-cheek way. Here, like literally, you're chayiv misa without your begadim. What? Oh, you're agreeing. Yeah,
What?
you're agreeing.
1,000%.
Yeah.
You're mechusar begadim, fine, it's a problem, but how does that make you a czar? Because the opposite logic doesn't work. Right, Yisrael puts on begadim, he's still a czar. Clothes do not make the man.
Clothes do not make
put
the
him
man.
on, we're still a czar.
Correct. It's one directional.
Right.
Beautiful. Tosfos is bothered by a side point. If you look at Ein Bigdei Aleim, Hiksha Harab Rabbi Yaakov de Orleans. That's not true. That's not true. We do have a Misa. So that's his answer. Misa, which is explicit to one thing. Okay, we're not going to learn Tosfos, but that's his question and answer. Let's get back to where we are. Mechusar kapara. Remember, we said Zav, Zava, Yoledes, and Mitzora. So they have a chiyuv to bring a korban. If you have a Kohen who is a Zav or a Mitzora, it can't be a Zav or a Yoledes. So if you have a Kohen and he is getting back in the saddle and he forgot to bring his korban, or he knew, so then he's chayiv misa. Binalan amar Rav Huna da amar krav v'chiper aleh Kohen v'tahera michlal sheitmeya v'amar mar tamei sheshimesh b'misa. So mechusar kapara is actually just Kohen sheshimesh b'tuma. It's not actually a unique din. I would have been critically minded and say, why do you teach both cases? That this sounds bichlal masayimana. Kohen sheshimesh b'tuma is the same thing as a mechusar kippur. Could have asked on the other case too by the Kohen. Why did you have to say the case of Kohen? It's the same thing as saying that he's a czar. We had to articulate that one, I guess, because it was less clear. Next, v'shelo rachutz yadayim v'raglayim minolan dichsiv bevoam el oal moed yerchatzu mayim v'lo yamusu. That's black on white that we say every morning in korbanos. Ushsuye yain dichsiv yain v'shecher al teisht ufrei rosh dichsiv rosham lo yigalechu pera lo yishalechu. The Kohen had a din. We learned about this in another Masechta that you're not allowed to go 30 days without a haircut. If you do, you're chayiv misa. So it says rosham leigalechu paro lo shlechu sid basre v'yayin lo yishtu iskish paru rosh l'shtuei yayin. We make a comparison in the psukim because they're in the same pasuk between a Kohen who does the avodah without his hair covered and a Kohen who drinks wine. Masui yayin b'misa that we saw from the pasuk above. Pre rosh b'misa. All right, we'll stop right here at Aval Orel. And in Yirtzeh Hashem, tomorrow we'll get to finish the parak of Hani Srafim. What day is tomorrow? Oh my gosh, it's only Monday. Whew. Okay, so then tomorrow we'll do Peidal, finish the parak, and try to get a little bit underway. Thursday's a fast day. I mean, I don't fast, so I think we should learn Thursday. People who make it, they make it. What am I supposed to do?
It's after the fast.
Oh, it's Megillah.
I'm happy to learn after.
Oh, yeah, listen.
No, I can't do that.
Learn after Megillah. You've never-
I just forgot about some Judaism there for a second. I was trading my Judaisms. All right, we'll stop right here. I'll let you know what the plan is when I figure it out. A beautiful night.